Hello, my name is Mr. Curtis, and where's Bruce? Ah, there you are, Bruce. You found my scissors. Great. We're going to need those because today we're making a simple composition. That's okay, I'll pick them up later. A simple composition. That's right, composition. What's composition? Composition's a big word that basically means the artistic placement of all of the parts of a picture. So as an artist, you decide where all of the parts of your picture are going to go, whether you're doing a collage or a painting or a drawing. And how do you decide those things? Usually it's just what feels right, right? But sometimes if you know a little bit more about the elements of composition, sometimes you can do things to make that picture look even better. So we're going to be doing a simple composition and to practice this art of composing a picture. So I'm going to get started and I'm going to help Bruce down. Here we go. And Bruce is going to get started on his composition and we'll check in with him a little bit later. So let's get started. Okay, so now I know it looks like I dumped the contents of my recycling bin onto my desk, and that's basically what I've done. So for this project, you're going to need a variety of paper and paper products, whatever you have lying around. Paper bag is great, any kind of colored construction paper or any other kind of paper that you have. Newsprint, newspaper is good. We've also got a bag here of coffee beans, an empty bag, and this has got a nice silver lining which I've cut out and I thought that would work great for something. So a nice variety of textures, of colors and types of paper is what you're going to need for this project. Also your scissors, of course, and your glue for putting everything together when you're ready to do that. So I already cut out my pieces. You're only going to need about 5 or 6 pieces for this. And I'm just going to move these things off my desk and show you what I got here. Okay, so these are the pieces that I cut out that I like. And you want to just go with the feels here. What do you like? We're just looking for some nice abstract shapes, okay? So very simple shapes. And these are the things that I found. I've got this nice bigger piece of black construction paper that I ripped on the top. I've got this nice shiny piece that I cut out of the coffee bean bag, and I've got a piece of newsprint here, and this is a nice crinkled up piece of paper bag. You can crumple this up and you get a nice, real nice texture. So texture is great. And I've got this piece of construction paper here that's a nice sharp point. So a nice variety of shapes, but also textures. Not just texture of the surface, but also the edge too. So think about the edge of your pieces and come up with a nice variety. But you know, that's what I like. If you like straight lines, you can have more pieces that have straight lines. If you want to rip all or most of your pieces, do that, but make sure there's some variety in the size and the shape, and make sure you've got some big ones, some small ones, and things like that. Okay, so now I have also something to put this on. I need a canvas. So I've got here this piece of card, and this card is from an old pad of watercolor paper, and it's just the backing of it, and it's just basically cardboard, but any cardboard you have will be fine. It doesn't really even matter what size it is. Even just a regular piece of construction paper. Regular paper might be a little bit thin, but it could work in a pinch. So don't be too picky about that. Now, we're going to do our composition exercise. So before we do anything else, before I talk about the elements of composition, which I'll do in a minute, first of all, what I want you to do when you get all your pieces cut out or ripped out, I want you just to place them onto your canvas here and in an interesting way, in a way that you think feels right. So we're just going with the feels here. What feels right? So to me, you can move these things around, you can try different things. We're not using any of the glue right now because I want you to be able to move things around and see how how you think it should look. So I'm just moving my pieces around here and to see what I like. Okay. Oh, okay. Now. Okay. Now, I kind of like that. That's what I like. Now you can take your time and try different arrangements, and once you've settled on an arrangement that you like, just sit back, enjoy it. Don't glue it down yet, because I want you to try a few things first before you commit to gluing it down. I like this. Now what I like about my arrangement here is it's abstract. All the elements are abstract, but as soon as you put a line in between this way, if you separate your canvas this way and you've got one color here and one color here, right away that looks like a landscape to me. So it looks like a place. That's what this looks like to me, some kind of moon landscape, because we got the white here and the black, so it looks like it might be in space. And this obviously looks like a moon of some kind or planet, and this could be, well, it could be a rocket, I guess, but it looks like maybe a dwelling or some kind of building. And then we've got this strange shape here, which could be something, and then this here is just a nice little bit of gray in the corner, which I like because it's similar to this one. So there's some things about this that I like, and I can really name what those things are that I like about it. Okay, now we're going to talk about the elements of composition, and then we're going to move the pieces around on your canvas to emphasize each one of these elements one at a time, just to see how it changes your pieces that you have, and to see whether you like it more or less, just to consider something different and to give you a new perspective on the placement of your pieces on the canvas. Okay, so the 4 elements of composition. Elements of composition. This sounds very complicated. Some people say there's 8 elements of composition. Some people say there's 12. I'm going to give you 4. I think it can all be basically boiled down to 4 elements of composition. Those elements are movement, balance, focus, and proportion. I'm going to talk about each of those quickly. We're going to start off first with movement. So let's look at my image here. Not a lot of movement going on. Everything is pretty much standing still as far as I can see, because we've got this piece here, which is sort of a lump. It's not moving very much. This one's got a little bit of movement to it. It's pointing up, which makes our eye go up like that. This one's got a little bit of movement this way, but there's not really any unified movement. There's a little bit of a, if you consider where your eye is traveling, it kind of goes this way a little bit. There's a little bit of a curve in sort of the natural way your eye might go in this picture. But if we want to emphasize movement in this picture using the pieces that I have, how would we do that? Well, I've got some ideas. Let's see, if I just add this little tail to this silver ball, it's kind of like a comet. So there's already some nice movement going across my page. That's pretty good. Now, the one thing is, the emphasis is sort of here, but this one here, this blob here is still pretty stationary, so that looks very different. And if we want to make the whole image feel like it's moving, we could do something like that. So now that looks a bit like a smoke cloud or something coming from my comet or my alien spacecraft, perhaps. And now everything is sort of moving this way. So that is the emphasis on movement with this image. Now let's move to balance. So now balance is basically, is your image, does your picture have balance? You can think of like a teeter-totter. Okay, if you look at the picture here, we have from top and bottom, we've got this line basically in the middle. One side is black, one side is white, and so they're sort of unbalanced that way. And balance is just something to consider. So it's not good or bad, it's just something to consider. So so I've got really heavy black and a really light white, so those aren't balanced. How about if we draw an imaginary line down the middle here? Is it balanced from left to right? Well, we've got two objects here, a smaller object in the black and a larger object in the white, and on this side we've got a smaller object in the black and this sort of rounder object mirroring this one here on the bottom. So it does have a bit of balance, but we could even make it more balanced. We could do this and make this even more balanced. If it was like this, then it's perfectly balanced. It's not, these are not exactly the same. We would call that symmetry, where one side mirrors the other. But they're similar enough that it's perfectly balanced. You could say that it's perfectly balanced. And to my eye, I don't really like that. I like a little bit of wobbliness, because you know, in nature things are not perfectly balanced. So I'm going to keep it that way. So that's balance. But it's nice to know that I've got a little bit of balance that I did just naturally, because it's a little bit of balance is pleasing to the eye. Okay, let's go to the next one. Focus. Where's the focus of your image? Where does your eye go to first? Does it go here, 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 here? My eye, when I look at this picture, because it's so bright, my eye goes straight to this triangle right there. That's my focus. How would we accentuate that? How would we make this the focus? Well, we can do this again. There we go. Now, that is very much the focus of the image, because before we had this piece here, and the triangle was kind of fighting a little bit with our bright circle here for focus. So if I wanted to really accentuate focus in my image, I think if I put these two together, that's going to make it very, very clear that this image has a clear focus, and it's this shape right here in the middle. So that would be my image with the focus being focus. Now, the last one is proportion. And this one I'm going to talk a little bit more about next time when we are making a collage with more complicated shapes. But proportion is basically the size of one thing and compared to the other. And when you have something like this, which is a landscape, then you expect things higher up on the landscape plane to be, if they're smaller, they're going to be farther away, and things lower down would be bigger. So I naturally put this big shape lower down because it looks like something that's closer to me. And I put this one up here. And if I played with that, had this up here and this down here, well, first of all, my yellow triangle isn't very visible down here, but this thing here just naturally looks a lot bigger, isn't it? Doesn't that look a lot bigger? Now if I put this here, this looks like a beak to me, so it looks a bit like a bird. And then if I put this here, then we've got ourselves, oh, look at this. Oh yeah, check this out. We have a bird in a boat. A bird in a boat looking at the moon. Or maybe it's a giant bird in a giant boat. And it's coming to gobble the moon. That's just where my brain goes. But proportion, there's some things you can really play around with proportion to change how your image looks. So, considering all those different placements that I tried, I kind of like the comet flying. That was kind of fun, the comet here. But you know what? I think I really like where I had it to begin with. I think that is my favorite because there's something that I just think feels right about it. I like the way that it makes me feel when I look at it. It's got some nice balance to it. It has a focal point here. And I'm going to keep it that way. So I'm going to probably glue that down, and that's going to be my image. So for you, this exercise is just to make you aware of the different elements of composition. And when you're making a picture, whether it's collage or drawing, and you're planning out where everything goes, you can think about these elements of composition, and it might make you look at your image in a new way. And especially if you're working on an image and it's not quite coming together for some reason, then you can look at things like balance in your image. You can look at what's the focal point. You can look at proportion, how big or small something is compared to the other. And you can play around with those different elements, and it might just solve the problem for you. So give that a try, and good luck. So there you go, an introduction to the elements of composition using simple shapes. Now that you've had a little bit of practice, I wonder what you would do with more complex shapes, like magazine cutouts, things like that. Well, there's going to be a part 2 to this composition video series where you'll get a chance to try that. That's coming up in a couple weeks. But until then, let's see how Bruce did with his simple shapes composition. Let's have a look. Hey Bruce, how's your composition going? Oh, look at that. Bruce's composition's all about focus. Look at that. Pow! Right at ya. It's like an explosion. Nice work, Bruce. So until next time, keep thinking creatively and be kind to yourself. Good job.